and I think, yeah, it's doubled by the cellos. I really like to double the cellos and horns because they blend really well together. Apart from that, we have the chords, but now there's no sustains anymore. It's only taken over by the staccato strings. So going into that, we basically have like a little ostinato-ish movement playing the chords. So here you have the chords of the harmony. So I've been changing that over from the long chords here. Like changing that from just long notes to shorter staccato notes, because it kind of goes a bit better together with the entire character of this part of the theme, which is driven by the percussion and the staccato strings and the horn melody. And also because, as I've been talking about a lot, you want to create separation between the elements. So you don't only want to create separation between the melody and the counter melody. You often also want to create separation between the harmony and the melody as well, and the harmony and the counter melody, for example. So in this case, I've been using the articulation and rhythm tools to make the harmony like short staccato notes to contrast the longer legato horn melody here. So here we have the harmonies with the melody. And then we have some kind of counter melody-ish ostinato thing going on here in the strings, which I added because I really like using these kind of things to bring some more life to the track. Because if I take away this little counter melody ostinato thing, it kind of feels like it lacks something, while if I add it back, that something is suddenly there, kind of. So a lot of times you just need to follow like your gut feeling. But we can actually have a look at this little staccato pattern for a second. So here, as I usually do, I have doubled both the Albion 1 staccatos with the cinematic string staccatos. And this is a little staccato pattern. It's basically just based on the chords. So in a way, this is also a part of the harmony. Because if I play this together, it kind of outlines the harmony. Because this is the only things that are playing the harmony. There's nothing else right now. You only have... we literally only have this. This is the entire harmonic foundation for this section. But it sounds really powerful and kind of interesting because you have a lot of different rhythms. So that's something that I did here, just a staccato pattern. So to break down the elements, we have the chords here, minus this. Whoops. We have the melody in the horns and in the cello, and we have this ostinato thing going on, which is just a third layer that outlines the harmony, but brings some more life and movement to the entire section. Now, what I've also been doing here is that I've been creating like a sense of growth by expanding on the percussion. So now we have a much more prominent percussion beat or groove going on that drives the entire section forward, together with the strings, because they're both playing like the same kind of rhythm, the same kind of tempo. So they work together in creating the forward movement of this section. So let's listen to it without the drums first. kind of loses a bit of the energy, while if I introduce the drums again, you get back that energy that we've been looking for. So let's just listen to only the percussion for a little bit. In a way, you can also actually find some links between this and this in a way, because this is moving like up and down in the pitch, you see, together kind of with the string patterns here. So when the string patterns go up, this goes up again to like the higher pitched drums. So they are kind of working together. Wait, let me try to solo those. This is something I haven't like really thought that much about until now. It's like kind of just interesting small details that you realize later. So yeah, we have the percussion grooves and the string patterns that are driving the thing forward. We have the exact same main melody, but now given to the horns. And overall, we have just a bigger ensemble here, creating a sense of growth while we still maintain the exact same chords, the exact same melody. It's just in a bigger ensemble and just a different kind of feel. Because here we have like the more slower moving strings, and then it starts picking up, like the tempo and the energy starts picking up at the second half of the A theme with some more percussion, going over to a really percussive and more energetic second A theme here. Now let's listen to the second half of it, because that's when it keeps growing like we did here. I've been adding more elements to it, like some more brass. And yeah, choirs again. Actually, the choirs are joining the melody, I think, here. Just building it up towards the end here, because I want to build it up like it would go directly into a climax. But then what I'm been doing here is I'm taking the energy down to create an even bigger impact when the climax is introduced. But first, let's just listen to this. So yeah, in the second half, it's the exact same elements. And this is really important. This is something you should really keep in mind, because when I want to make things bigger, I am not adding any more layers. I'm not adding any new elements. There are no new melodies. There are no new elements in the composition. And that's something I see a lot of beginner composers do, and it's really hurting their composition sometimes, because when they want to go bigger, they are simply just adding more stuff. They're just adding a new melody. They're just like taking whatever track and just adding a new element that is not the same as the other elements. So they just keep on adding new melodies and new parts to the composition. Now, this can end up sounding really messy, and especially from an orchestration standpoint, you just get too many fighting elements that are just battling for space. Now, it's totally fine to add more instruments. That's not a problem at all. That's exactly what you want to do when you want to make something bigger. But too many people think that you should add more layers to a track to make things sound bigger, which is not the case. In most cases, it will actually lose a lot of the power. In contrast to if you add more instruments, but you just double your existing elements. Like, for example, what I've been doing here with the choirs. I've not been doing anything different. I've literally just made them double the melody that the horns are playing. And when I've been adding in these tubas, it's just doubling the bass notes and doubling exactly what the staccato strings are already doing. Same with these ones. It's just doubling exactly what the staccato strings are already doing, making it sound even more powerful. Because if I would do something completely different here, it would just fight for space, fight like the staccato strings for space instead of making them more powerful together. Because now the bass sounds much more powerful and united, because they're both just giving each other power instead of fighting for it. So that's a really, really important point I really want you to remember. And it's the same I've been doing everywhere here as well. Whenever I've been adding more instruments, like with the horn here, the horn is not playing anything new. It is just doubling this cello counter melody. So extremely important. Don't get tempted to just add more layers without asking yourself why you're doing it. Instead, try to just reinforce and strengthen the existing layers there. And the same thing with the percussion. I'm not trying to do anything extremely different here. You can see how these percussion things, like this thing I showed you with the staccato strings, how they're working together instead of against each other. So this is extremely important and will be crucial to you getting the kind of massive and big sound you want. I think it's probably one of the biggest tips I could give you. So instead of just adding more elements, strengthen the existing elements with more instruments and a bigger orchestration. That said, let's move on a little bit to the end of this part here. There's a little thing you can notice is that I've been adding a little riser, for example, to just give it a little boost at the end here. And here, like as a first-time listener, you might think that this will go straight into the climax, which is not the case. Because as I just said, the best way to make something look or sound even bigger, I mean, the contrast effect is really powerful. I mean, if you take any small object and put it next to a large object, the large object will seem a lot larger than if you put two large objects next to each other. So with the same logic, if you put like a super powerful section right after another powerful section, you won't really get that massive wow effect. But if you separate them by silence or like a more calm and quiet part, this climax, like the most powerful section, will sound a lot bigger. So that's exactly what I've been doing here. And it's exactly why I like creating B sections in general and not just do A compositions, because when you use B sections, it's a lot easier to create your final most powerful part of your track a lot more powerful than it would originally be if it was just the same thing repeating over and over. But in that case, if you're doing like an A track, I think using silences, for example, and changes in the dynamics is really important. But here I've been creating like a different section altogether, because as you see here, like in both these parts, it's the exact same melody, it's the exact same chords, and you just have the harmony, which is not changing. So this is the first section where things are actually changing. We have a new melody. In fact, we have several melodies. And that's also one of the ways I've been creating separation and contrast, because you want your B theme to be contrasting to whatever other stuff you have here. And this can be done in several ways. For example, in the same things that you create separation between layers, you can create separation between sections, both by using rhythm, dynamics, range, and all those things. So here, the difference is that, first of all, the melody is not one single melody that keeps growing and building throughout the entire section. It is several melody layers that keeps jumping back and forth between the violins, the violas, the cellos, and the oboes, and the flutes, and even the clarinets. So we have several just small fragments of melodies that just keep jumping back and forth between the different sections. So that's one of the ways I've been trying to create the contrast in the melody. Now, actually, let's just listen to this section.